And Gandhi himself is a good illustration of this. Most of you in this room know Mr. Gandhi as a leader of the Indian independence movement of the Indian Congress Party. Even when he ended his membership, he still played a very influential role. But Gandhi had a second life. He lived two lives simultaneously. He was also an ashram leader. An ashram is like a cult. And he was a very tough taskmaster in his ashram. He was the leader. He demanded, obviously, you can't eat meat because he's a vegetarian. You can't have sex because he's a brahmachari. You can't make idle jokes. You can't read in the toilet. You can't wear wristwatches. You can't wear underwear. Gandhi was pretty tough. In fact, he made the members of the ashram keep a diary of what they did every minute of every day, because he thought nothing was more sinful than squandering time. And he read the diaries. There was a little bit of the big brother in little Mr. Gandhi. But obviously, Gandhi understood that you don't use those criteria when you're trying to build a mass movement. When he's trying to build the Congress Party, he doesn't set as a condition of membership that you have to be a vegetarian and a brahmachari. Because if he did, the Congress Party could probably fit in total in this room. That's not how you build a movement. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with the following. That when you're trying to set a criterion for a movement, it is not about what is your opinion, or your opinion, or your opinion, or my opinion. That's not what politics is about. And it might surprise or offend some people in the room. It's also not about what you think is moral, or you think is moral, or you think is moral, or what I think is moral. The standard for politics is what will reach, what will resonate with a broad public based on its current morality. So what does that mean practically? To return to the example I gave a moment ago with the winter coat. If everybody in the front row were to block Ocean Parkway and say, give your coat to the homeless, I'm ready to do it. And I dare say, virtually the whole of my neighborhood would agree. We already know that's right. But let's say everybody in the front row were to block Ocean Parkway and say, not give your coat, but give the empty room in your apartment or home to the homeless. Now, I often struggle with that because I know I do have a living room which can accommodate a homeless person. And I also know, ethically, morally, using the proverbial standard, what would Jesus do? I should give the room. That's a fact. And I think everybody in the room here understands that. Am I ready to? I have to speak honestly. The answer is no. I'm not. And I think that's true of a broad public. If you overreach public opinion, you're no longer building a movement, you're creating a cult. So you have to always be careful about not overreaching public opinion. So where does that leave us in the case of Israel-Palestine? In fact, I think it's not complicated at all. Because if you look at the most representative institutions in the United States, or if you look at the most respected or enlightened institutions, I said the United States, I meant the world. If you look at the most representative institutions in the world, or you look at the most enlightened institutions in the world, you reach the same conclusion. The conclusion is the public is ready to accommodate, to accept, to assimilate the two-state settlement on the June 1967 border, a full Israeli withdrawal from the territories it occupied in June 1967, the right of the Palestinians to form an independent state in the whole of the West Bank, the whole of Gaza, and East Jerusalem as its capital, and a just resolution of the refugee question. That's what the record shows. So let's try to sample the record briefly. The most representative political body in the world is, of course, the UN General Assembly. And every year, the UN General Assembly deliberates on a resolution titled Peaceful Settlement of the Palestine Question. In fact, they deliberate on it exactly at this moment each year, the end of November, early December. And every year they put forth the same solution. Two states, June 1967 border, Palestinian state in the whole of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, and a just resolution of the refugee question. And here's the vote, briefly sampling it. 1997, 155-2. The whole world on one side, Israel and the United States on the other side. 2004, the vote, 161-7. The whole world on one side, Israel, the US, Australia, Grenada, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau on the other side. 2010, the vote, 165-7. The whole world on one side, Israel, the United States, Australia, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, and Palau on the other side. And just this past year, the vote a few days ago was 167-7. The whole world on one side, Israel, the United States, Canada, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, and Palau on the other side. Some people say, what about the Arab states, the Arabs? And while the Arabs have their own regional organization, the Arab League, in 2002 they put forth what came to be called the Arab Peace Initiative, which they renew every year. It calls for the exact same terms, two-state settlement, June 1967 border, just resolution of the refugee question, and then they threw in full normalization of relations with Israel, including trade and tourism. The vote in the Arab League, there are 22 members, the vote 22-0. What about those Muslim states, those crazy Islamic Muslim, fanatical, fundamentalist, whatever? Well, they too have their own organization. It's called the Organization of the Islamic Conference, the OIC, 57 members. The OIC To quote it, we adopt the Arab Peace Initiative to resolve the issue of Palestine, the Middle East. The vote in the OIC, 57-0. In fact, the OIC includes, of course, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has consistently voted for the two-state settlement, not just in the OIC, but if you go back to the UN General Assembly, when I said the whole world on one side, that includes and included this past year, a few days ago, it includes the Islamic Republic of Iran. Well, some people say, well, yes, it's true, it's the most representative body in the world, the General Assembly, but we know about the tyranny of the majority. Democracy is okay if the vote's on your side, and if it's not on your side, then it becomes the tyranny of the majority. So let's move away from the most representative organization in the world, and let's look at the most respected legal body in the world, namely the International Court of Justice. And in 2004, the International Court of Justice, it rendered what's called an advisory opinion bearing on critical issues regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. As most of you know, there is several issues, four or five, depending on how you count, on what are called the most complicated, controversial issues bearing on the Israel-Palestine conflict. The issues which are alleged to be so complicated, controversial, nearly intractable, that they have to be put off to the last stage of negotiations. And those four issues are borders, settlements, Jerusalem, and the refugees. Well, the International Court of Justice ruled on three of those four issues. It said Israel had no title to any of the West Bank, Gaza, or East Jerusalem. Those are occupied Palestinian territories. It said that all the settlements are illegal under international law, under the Fourth Geneva Convention, and the settlements constitute a flagrant violation of under international law. The vote in the General Assembly, the vote in the International Court of Justice on the points which I just listed, settlements, borders, Jerusalem, there are 15 judges on the court, 2 of whom are Jewish, Rosalind Higgins from the UK, Thomas Bergenthal from the United States. They all agreed on those issues. Even the American judge who dissented on one question unrelated to the ones I just mentioned, even Mr. Bergenthal said at the end, he said, there cannot be any question but that the settlements that Israel has built in the occupied territories, they're illegal under international law. The court didn't rule on the refugee question because the refugee question was not relevant to their deliberations. They were deliberating on the legality of the wall that Israel is building in the West Bank. But it's true to say that the major human rights organizations in the world, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, they have rendered opinions on the question of the refugees. And both Amnesty and Human Rights Watch, they have both concluded that the Palestinian refugees, as they put it, and succeeding generations that have maintained genuine links with the land, they have the right of return. So where does that leave us? It leaves us, it seems to me, with three critical conclusions. Number one, the final status issues, the permanent status issues, they are contrary to what we're often, or in fact always told. They are not in the least bit controversial. Every time you hear about the disputed territories, there is no dispute. The International Court of Justice, the most respected legal body in the world, has ruled. Those are occupied Palestinian territories. Whenever you hear about the intractable problem of East Jerusalem, there is nothing intractable about the problem. As the International Court of Justice has said, East Jerusalem is occupied Palestinian territory. And whenever you hear about the controversial settlements, there is nothing whatsoever controversial about the settlements. They are categorically, unequivocally, and unambivalently illegal under international law.